this meeting. John, are you okay with that?
Fine with that, Bill.
Okay. All right. Beautiful day. Top 10 or top 3 of the year, I think. And I would encourage you to open your windows, open your doors if you have a screen door, and let that fresh air in. The CDC says that helps us with the virus. So we get good fresh air. It's all about ventilation. A little business before we invite our guest, John Coker, who is the supervisor for most of us. Most of us are in District 1, but John would say he's supervisor for the entire county. He has that perspective. So John, welcome. We'll give you a proper introduction in a minute or so, and we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Bill.
So the board approved Jim Rich as a transfer Rotarian last board meeting. We met Jim Rich at the drawing of the raffle. He showed up, introduced himself, took pictures, and put us in the paper. John has been a Rotarian Jim has been a Rotarian for about 25 years. He's from the Wicomico County Rotary Club up in Maryland. How many know how to pronounce Wicomico? Oh yeah, Regina would know.
Yeah, like you said.
So he's a former president. So next week we will, in fact, he's up there saying goodbye to his old Rotary Club today. And next week we will welcome into our club unless somebody objects to that. And if you think you want to object, I'd like to talk with you. Okay, what is October 10th and 11th?
All right.
October
RLI.
10th and 11th.
RLI.
RLI. And Randy's already signed up. I've signed up. Jackie has signed up. Who else has signed up? Did somebody?
I think I tried. I started and then I got messed up somehow. So.
Okay, I will do it again this week, but I sent you a link because DACDB has let us down again, but we got special help.
Yeah, they had something was going on.
Let me tell you, DACDB, we have to respect it, but it's kind of sorry. It's really kind of sorry. But that's what we've got, and we're going to live with it, and we're not going to badmouth it. We'll work around it when we can, and I've sent you a workaround. So I'd like to see about 5 or 6 of us in RLI on October 10th and 11th. Get your flu shot. Who's had their flu shot?
I'm getting one today.
There you go.
I'm getting a drive-through.
Jackie's getting a drive-through flu shot at your office, Mark.
Good.
That's a tremendous service. Last week, I passed the hat for Yes for Northampton Schools. The Rotary isn't going to support raising money for that campaign, but we as individuals can and should. Paul Strong, we thank you for your support, and I hope others find it in their heart and mind to kick in a few bucks so that everybody in the county understands why it's the right thing to do. Just because it's the right thing to do doesn't mean people know about it. So we've got to get the word out. So help us with that. Terry Flynn, who is our guest speaker next week. Terry Flynn is the county registrar. He needs 2 volunteers for parking at Johnson United Methodist Church. That's District 4. That's where Dave Cavler typically volunteers on election day, but he won't be able to park cars. So I'm between now and November 3rd, I'll be asking for volunteers. Would anybody be volunteering today? Huh.
What time?
Stanley, it's election day. You are going to be busy doing something else, I guarantee you.
Oh, okay.
So,
I was gonna volunteer.
so think about it. Think about it, people. We've got a couple of more weeks of my badgering you to do that. Diane thinks she might want to do it. She likes car parking. So if you like Diane, you can join Diane and do that. Okay, now this is in the category of long-range planning, but I'd like to see us do something special on October 24th. Paul, you're so smart. What's October 24th? Paul's not as smart as he used to be. Hey, John, we just pick on each other. It's our chance to be mean. So October 24th, this is serious. That's Worldwide Polio Day.
Oh.
That's huge in Rotary. So now this is serious. If you do nothing else, be thinking about what we might do as a club on October 24th for polio, I mean. I don't know where that came from. But you know, we're closing in. Africa's off the table. There are 2 countries left. And we need to close the gap. But apart from that, this is so important. We ought to do something in a big way. So I'm going to be thinking about it, and I know you will too. And between now and then, we'll come up with something creative. Okay, now this is when everybody looks down at their shoes or up on the ceiling and otherwise gets distracted. But we're looking for a president-elect. Look at Stanley looking up at the ceiling.
I thought Burtis would have somebody by now.
I'm working on it.
John, you're not working very
I'm not as
hard.
smart as I used to be either, Paul. What can I say?
Burtis, I think you work on it when I mention it. And then as soon as we hang up, you stop
I can't
working.
remember. I thought this was a Kiwanis meeting. I'm in the wrong place.
I move that we find Burtis.
You don't have to find Burtis because Burtis is so generous. He's always reaching deep in his pockets for helping Rotary. I wouldn't find him, but you might give him a kick in the butt. So, God, you know, come next July 1st, think ahead, July 1st next year, if we don't act, this ship will not have a rudder. Now, some say the ship doesn't have a rudder now.
We've been running this for 2 years.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Is John going to go ahead and get us a president nominee as well as a president-elect? Because we're back with one soon.
You know, maybe we ought to work on a nominee because that's so far out. Somebody will stand up. But let me tell you, Reggie is looking better and better.
He is.
He really is. The guy, every time he opens his mouth, he
Pearls of wisdom.
wisdom, words of leadership. Reggie, covering your face doesn't help. So, you know,
Mount Rushmore. He's that kind of guy, you know. So
we might have to pass the hat because this may require bribery. I'm not sure. Needless to say, we
What's
still.
your background, Reggie?
Hey, Reggie, make me
Where's
feel
that?
good. Why don't you,
I like those as well, Paul.
why don't you say you're thinking about it at least?
Well, I said actually that I thought about it, and I have so much going on right now that I don't think it would be fair for me to seriously consider it because I just have too much on my plate at the moment. But it's an honor to even be considered, guys.
And I respect that. And Reggie, I apologize. I forgot you said that, and I'll probably forget it again. But we'll. Hey guys, it'll happen. I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. Did everybody call their buddy?
Mary did.
And this is just about hooking up with the new.
Thank you, Charles. Well, I usually do it on Tuesday on purpose, so Chuck remembers that I called him.
Right. Mary is my memory.
I tell you, Mary is probably the best Rotarian in the room. Okay,
You know what? I'm not gonna be president nominee.
Who invited a friend or a neighbor to join our meeting?
Hey, Bill,
Thank you, Bill.
I invited my son to come in on the phone call, and he was going to, but he had something come up this morning. He called me right before the meeting, said he couldn't make it, but I'm going to get him here. The other thing too is I did call my buddy this week, Richard Leal, and I regret to say he's been in the hospital for about the last 3 or 4 days. I spoke with Joan, and he went across the bay one day last week to see the optometrist because he gets these injections in his eye. And they discovered during that visit that his heartbeat was up and down and very irregular, and it caused some concern. So they took him to the ER over Virginia Beach, and they kept him right away. I don't know about what they've done, but Joan told me yesterday that apparently he's stable, but they're going to most likely send him up to Nassauatics for a few days for some physical therapy to try to strengthen his muscles and be more steady on his feet. So it's not really bad news, but it's not great news either. So those of you that, I think all of us know Richard, if you get a few minutes, he can't talk because he's in the hospital. Of course, he can't have visits, but I'm sure Joan would pass along any calls or things that you could provide. So be thinking about our buddy Richard. He's 87, pushing 88, and he's just not in the best health now.
Bill, how long will he be in the hospital?
He's been over there, I think it's at Beach General since about last Thursday. And the last I heard from Joan, they were still trying to get him placed in a rehab facility because he doesn't need long-term type nursing care, but he does need rehab, and I don't understand all the ins and outs of that with Medicare and what have you, but I know she's having a hard time getting him in the right type of place for his needs. But last I heard, he'll hopefully or probably will be moved up to Nassauatics, maybe even today.
Okay, Regina?
Yes.
Will you call Joan, and when we know where he's going to be for a while, let's send him some flowers.
Okay.
We all would appreciate that.
Yeah.
Will
do.
We're all going to be there one day, and let's keep him in your thoughts and prayers. He's having a rough time of it. Somebody told me that he said, and this is really kind of sad, he knows he's not well, and he's just unhappy and frustrated with it, and that's a terrible state to be in. So let's give him a hug and think about him all the time. Okay, Mary.
Yes. Oh.
I'd like you to share with the club, because most of us, I don't think any of us, have been through what you're going through right now and becoming a citizen. So tell us about what it takes to become a citizen and your interview last week.
Wow. So last week's interview, so because I got my daughter, my husband, they are like citizens, so I had to live in the United States for at least 3 years, and so 5 years has gone, and I felt like I had enough time to apply for that. So I applied last year, and then usually would only take 5 months for the whole process from beginning when you apply to the end that you take the oath. But because of COVID this year, everything was really slow. So anyway, so finally I got my interview done last Monday. And the interview, I mean, I was thankful that Bill helped me with lots of this, the questions when I had to study for my civics of the United States history and the civics. So I had to, anyway, so I really put lots of time and effort trying to learn all that. So during the interview, they actually just ask 6 questions, because if you don't get like you have 10 chances to answer 6 of those 10 questions right. So because I did enough work, so I got the first 6 questions right. It's about like what happened in the, you know, like in the 1800s, and what kind of wars, and who was the president when there was a World War II, so all that. And then they just verify all the documentation you submitted. They ask you questions like, why do you want to be American citizen, and all that. And then they also want to make sure that you are not gonna be a burden to the American society, means you have a good job with income, you did not clear any like social welfare, and you are actually paying your tax, make all the contribution to the society in a positive way. And they ask you, what club did you join? And so I put there as the Rotary Club. And so then they asked me, what is the Rotary Club do? Like, what it's like? What is Rotary Club? But anyway, so the interview was very interesting, and it went well. And then they just asked me to make a copy of all the documentation to mail to them, because they could not make copy in the office. And then they said it's gonna take as long as another 3 months, and then they will notify me when to take the oath. So, I mean, most of the process is already done, and so they just need to verify the copy of the documentation I sent again, and then they will tell me when to go take the oath. So that's all.
Mary and I talked about this a little bit this morning, and I told her once she gets the oath, she needs to lead us in singing Yankee Doodle.
And you know what? I believed it. I said, "Oh, Yankee Doodle." I was trying to learn the national anthem, and I really love that song, but I did not hear Yankee Doodle. I had to learn.
Mary, that's a great story, and I, for one, and I think others will probably go to your swearing-in ceremony.
Yeah,
in Virginia Beach.
Why it's gonna be in the immigration office in Norfolk. It's like I think there's only one. I confused it with Virginia Beach. Actually, the address shows Norfolk. It's a Virginia Beach Street something.
Oh, okay.
We have to get a carpool together and go over there.
Yeah, when I get the, you know, like when they tell me when to go, I would like to let everyone in the club know. And if COVID by then is gone, and I think it's gonna be fine if we could all go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, has anybody anything for the good of Rotary or the good of yourself that you'd like to say or announce?
Bill, let me bring you up to date on Mark Nunez. I talked to Katie last week finally, and she thought we were kind of waiting for a physical meeting, and she wasn't comfortable with that with his general health. He's now almost 2 years out, and they gave him 6 months when he first got this diagnosis. So it's still nothing's going to change, but he's already substantially outlived what they thought he would. But all that said, she would be happy for you and I or whoever wanted to come to the house and present him the Paul Harris pen at any time. So you and I will schedule that, and anybody else that might want to come, we'll figure that out. So,
if you will organize that, I'll drop everything to be there.
okay. All right. I'll talk
everybody.
to you.
This is Mark's Paul Harris pin. About a month and a half ago, we made him a Paul Harris Fellow, and now we have to present his pin and certificate. So, John, I appreciate that, and in your prayers as well. Okay, is there anything else? Okay, well, we're going to have a short share on this because I want to give John Coker as much time as he can share with us. Do you see the screen?
Says Zoom.
Yes.
Oh, wrong screen. Let me try that again. I told you we'd screw it up.
We?
I don't know how I did that. Now, what time is it, people?
Happy Dollar.
Happy dollars. So let's have about 2 or 3 minutes of happy dollars before we introduce John. And like I was saying to some of you early arrivers, if you aren't happy today with this weather, unless something, really is wrong in your family, you'll never be happy. So
I'll start us off, Bill.
thank you, Reggie.
Yes, my happy dollar today, I'm going to do $5. Back about 6 months ago, I had made a decision to get back down to my fighting weight of 200 pounds. At that time, I was like 223 pounds. This morning, I weighed in at 200.4 pounds. So,
All right.
Wow.
There you go.
Good for you, Reggie. I know that's not easy. Bill Murphy.
Yeah, I've got a happy dollar this morning, Bill. Last Friday, as most everyone knows, was the first day of in-person voting at the registrar's office in Eastville. And so my wife decided a couple of days before that we were absolutely going to go on the first day, and we were going to get there early. So we got there about 8:15, had a good chance to talk with Terry a little bit. And as it turns out, we were the first 2 people in line. Well, about 15 minutes before voting was to start, I noticed this car pull up, and there was this real sweet little old lady got out of the car, slowly walked up the ramp, and she started talking to us. Well, come to find out, she lives down near Capeville, and she's 102 years old, and she drove herself there. So we immediately decided that she should absolutely be the first person to cast a vote in the county at the registrar's office. So she went first, and she was very tickled with that, and Terry took her picture and everything. So that's definitely worth a happy dollar. That was sort of my high point of my day last Friday.
That's amazing.
Hey, Bill, you left out. Bill, you left out. She was a soul sister.
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely, yes, she was.
I keep telling you guys, black don't crack.
Well, she definitely wasn't cracked at all, I can tell you.
Imagine all the history that lady has seen, lived it.
Actually, guys,
Amazing.
they had an interview with her in the newspaper.
That was in the paper, yeah.
Newspaper. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other happy dollars? Thank you, Bill.
Hey, Bill.
John Burtis.
I've got 10. I've got 5 for Mary. I didn't know this was going on. And I'm really impressed and happy that she shared, and I hope I am available for her swearing in. I would like to do that. And the second 5 is Sheila and I had a chance to go to Nantucket for the weekend over Labor Day. And it was a nice place to be. And as you might expect, as soon as I hit the island, the white trash alarm went off. And it stayed like about 72 hours. So I had to go inside and stay inside the whole time I was there. But it was a great visit. My brother-in-law turned 80, so it dawned on me as we were standing together, he and I together are 150 years old, which seems kind of scary. But anyway, real pleasant visit with my family. Just, we didn't go anywhere but just to their house and pretty much stayed in the house the whole time. So but it was a nice visit. We had a COVID test before we went because you can't go into Massachusetts without one, and that was all good. So first venturing out to outside of the county in a long time. That's the second 5.
Thank you, John. Are there any others? If there are no others, I will make the last happy dollar as part of the introduction to our guest. I'm going to make 5 happy dollars because I'm happy that John Coker is on our program today. I've known John for a long time, but I've really been getting to know him a lot better in this last year or so because of stuff we've been doing together. And I tell you, the more you know John, the better you like John. He's one of those guys that, you know, if you don't know him, he kind of like Stram, you know, doesn't always smile, always thinking. But he is a great guy, and I consider him a good friend. And John, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself before you come on talking about the county and all this stuff. I know
Hey,
your
Bill, take
background.
down your screen share.
Oh, well, let me turn that off. Yeah, I'm sorry. See, I told you guys that you're in trouble today. Okay, now can you see John? He's laughing and smiling.
Yes, we got it.
You really like that joke. So, John, it's your program until we tell you we're tired of you.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for that wonderful introduction. And I'm not going to bore you with my history. I've been here for 15 years, and we've had land here for over 20 years. So we've got a real strong connection to the Eastern Shore, and we love it here. So this is our home, and it's going to be probably my home until I die. So you can expect that. What I want to talk today, I mean, I've got a bunch of things I want to give you an update on, which I've talked to a lot of you before. But I've got 3 or 4 things that are really important that I want to talk about, and I want to sort of jump right into those. And what I'd like to do is, and Bill tells me that some of you can only stay on a limited amount of time. So what I'd like to do is go through those 3 or 4 and then take questions. And then for, you know, those of you that have to jump off, I get it, go ahead and do that. And then I can update you on the other stuff after that, those that can hang on for a while. But let me start with the really important stuff. And first is the budget. That's always my first number one. And basically the tax rate is flat again this year, even though we expect sales tax to be down, although August was a pretty banner month, actually better than last year. But prior months, you know, the last 3 or 4 prior months were down. We expect the tot tax to be down. We don't expect real estate to be down, but we expect the collections to be slow because people may not have the money to pay it, but so they'll pay it, but next year, not this year. And because of, you know, the expected downs, okay, we froze salaries, we reduced expenses as much as we could in the county, and we felt like we didn't need to raise taxes. We do have a rainy day fund, which we're going to use some of, and not a lot of, but some of. So basically, at the end of the day, we didn't raise taxes this year. But, okay, that's the good news. The bad news is we do intend to raise taxes next year, and that's my next topic. So, and this is a big one. So I'd like everybody to really pay attention on this one. And hopefully you all know about it, so it won't be that big a surprise. But the reason we're going to have to raise taxes next year, and a lot of you have heard about this referendum that's on the budget, okay, is basically we put together a couple years ago, Board of Supervisors School Board Committee, and basically we figured out what we need to do to the high school, middle school complex. Okay, it's really important. Okay, so this is, you know, basically what we have to do is we have to renovate the high school and we have to build a new middle school. And that's where the new tax increase is going to come from. And I'm going to explain you know, how we want to do that in a couple of minutes. But first, let me give you a little background because this is really important. Parts of the high school complex are run down. and need to be demolished and replaced. It basically would cost more to renovate them, okay, rebuild them, than it would replace them. And then the ongoing cost would be more because it'd still be old stuff. And probably the best example of this, and a lot of people on this call have been there, is the cafeteria. I mean, the walls in the cafeteria are horrible, the ceiling's horrible, and there's just, without doing major surgery, you just can't make it better. And it's less visible, but the auditorium's pretty much in the same place. So they just make sense to tear those down and rebuild them. Other parts of the school are very structurally sound, okay, but they're just not doing the job for today's educational needs. So we need to do some serious renovation. And last but not least, and this is really important, the middle school must be separated from the high school, because the two student groups never should have been mixed, okay? Shame on the Board of Supervisors and the school board that put them together in the same school, okay? That should not have happened. All the experts say they should not be in the same building, or they should be in buildings that have basically walls to keep them apart, different cafeterias, different gymnasiums, et cetera, et cetera. We're gonna do everything we can to do that. So a couple more things that are on the school are really important. Okay, basically, I want to stress that we've had a structural engineering firm come in, look at the high school, middle school complex, okay, and look at it very carefully. We actually had two. The school board hired one, and then we hired another one, okay, and basically it's now totally structurally sound. Okay, we had to make a $12,000 investment to make it sound. There's one thing that they didn't like, so we fixed it. Okay, and it's going to remain structurally sound until the end of this construction, which probably will be 2 to 3 years. And I'm going to say this, I've said this 100 times, I'm going to say it again. We never want anybody to be unsafe for a second, okay, in a county-owned property, okay, whether it's a school, whether it's a county building or whatever. So if there's anything ever wrong, we're going to fix it, and we're going to do it fast. In this joint school board of Supervisors committee that we formed 2 years ago, and basically 3 supervisors, 3 school board members, plus the superintendent, okay, is basically, and the county administrator, is basically working well together. We're not pointing fingers anymore. The bottom line is to solve the issues, fix the things we have to fix so that, our school can be good, okay, and our schools can be up to date and in great shape. So no more finger pointing in the future. So bottom line is, this is all going to cost about $35 million. Okay, and the money's going to be spent. We've already borrowed 25, and we borrowed 25 last fall in an awesome rate. Okay, and we still have to borrow a little bit more, but we're sort of trying to figure out when the right time to do that is. Okay, and so the big question is, how do we pay it back? Because we don't have, county doesn't have $35 million sitting around waiting to spend on schools. So, little civics lesson here. Okay, the way the county supervisors typically raise money, if they don't have it, okay, is they raise property taxes. Okay, so to pay this debt back, we could easily raise property taxes. When you vote for a supervisor, you give us the authority to just vote for higher taxes, and we can do that. But we think we have a better way, and here's the better way. Okay, we have got we can add a 1 cent sales tax. Okay. And we got the authority from the General Assembly to do it a few months ago, okay, just for, okay, school construction, renovation, nothing else, okay? We can't, and a lot of people ask me, can you use it for salary increases because the teachers are underpaid? And the answer is no. It can only be used for school construction and renovation, okay? The tax, has to be approved by a referendum. That's why we're having a referendum. It's on the ballot. That's why we have a referendum in November. And so it has to be approved by a majority of the voters, okay? Tax is only good for 20 years, and then it expires. And the good news is that 45% of this tax, okay, a sales tax, we currently have we actually have a 5.3 sales tax in this county. It would go to 6.3. Okay, we get 1% of that back from the state. Okay, that's currently about $1.4 million. And the absolute great news about that is 45% of that comes from visitors. So and if we do this, okay, 45% of the 1.4 million we're going to get each year for this 1 cent sales tax is going to come from, basically our tourist economy. So a lot of people are going to be paying this money. They're going to come into town. They're going to drop a 10, 20, or $50. Okay. And a piece of that's going to go to help pay for our schools. So the great news is that if we do it this way, okay, it won't be all on the backs of the Northampton County citizens, okay, and their property tax. It'll help. We'll have the tourist economy will help us pay for it. And even the better news is with the debt rolling off over the next 5 to 10 years, okay, from the old school, the school and the county complex debt that we had, okay, we think we can probably cover all of it without raising property taxes. So the chances, if we do pass this referendum, the chances of property taxes going up in the near future is very slim. So bottom line is, okay, this is the Yes for Schools. Hopefully everybody's seeing these signs around. Okay, and if you go, basically you go on the website, I mean, yesforschools.com website, or Yes for Schools on Facebook. We give you all the information you want. We're looking for donations to put out more signs. So if you got some extra money, you'd like to make a donation, we'd love to have it. Just get on the website. I'll tell you what to do and where to send it. And if you like this idea, which I'm voting Yes for Schools without any question whatsoever. Okay. Tell everybody you see, everybody you talk to, this is the right thing to do. Because we're going to pay this tax one way or the other. We're going to pay it with property tax, which all comes from Northampton County, or we're going to pay it with a 1-cent sales tax increase, which is going to come from 45% from other people that don't live in the county. So that's my big one for the day. And let me do 2 more, and then we'll stop for questions. The next one is there's some of you know there's a Confederate statue in Eastville. On October 13th, we're going to have a public hearing. And that public hearing is all about hearing what people want to do with that statue, what they think we should do with that statue, whether we should do anything with the statue, get rid of it, add another one, whatever, okay? We want to hear what people have to say. So I would say the same thing I just said on the last one. Spread the word, tell everybody October 13th. If you don't feel comfortable coming to the supervisor meeting, write something down, send it in, tell us what you'd like to do. Okay, we want everybody's thoughts. We want to hear what everybody wants to do, and then we're going to put it all together and figure out what we, the supervisors, think we should do. And there'll probably be at least 1 or 2 more meetings on that. So don't expect a quick decision, but we absolutely want to hear what everybody wants to, what everybody's thoughts are on that. And this is my last, and then we'll stop for questions. The third thing is the CARES grants. Okay, the county is giving away CARES grants, okay, for businesses that are having difficulties because of COVID. Okay, so if you have if you know a business that's having COVID hardship, and they can document it, which it doesn't take a lot, I don't think. Okay, we want you to visit the county website. We want you to fill out an application. These grants can be as much as $10,000, $5,000 for operating problems, and $5,000 for capital. Okay, so please, again, tell everybody you can. We've got a lot of money here. Okay, and I mean, we got the county was given $2 million. We gave about $1 million of that, $500,000 of that, I'm sorry, or $600,000 to the towns. Okay, we still have $1.4 million. And we spent, I think we spent $400,000 or $500,000 of that. So we still have close to $1 million of it's basically your money, not the county's money. It's taxpayer money that we want to give to the people that really need it, that got hurt because of COVID. So please get the word out. And this money has to be gone by the end of this year. It has to be out of the county. It has to be given to somebody by the end of December, or it goes back to the federal government. So I would say, please, if you know a business that's hurting, please have them apply. And then, Cape Charles has got a program going on too, but I would say, apply to both. Who knows? Not that you'll get it from both, but at least you have a chance of getting some of the money from either one. So those are my 3 big ones. I'm gonna stop there and let people ask questions, and then I can move on to sort of a whole bunch more updates that I usually do.
Don?
Yes.
I appreciate you coming on and explaining some of that. I do have some concerns about an economy that's in trouble right now. And anytime someone says, hey, got a great idea and a bad economy, let's raise taxes. So let me start there. The issues I have, you brought up a 1% add-on tax to sales taxes. We already have that. The base state sales tax is 4.3. We pay 5.3. Now we're talking about 6.3%. So you're almost adding 45% over top of state sales taxes. That doesn't sound like much when you say 1 cent on every dollar, but from what I've read, these sales taxes will not be levied on things like food, medicines, and so forth. But how about clothes? And we have a lot of young families in Northampton County with kids who need a replenishment of clothes every year because they outgrow their clothes. These taxes aren't just going to be on the people who come here on vacation, who have lots of money. They don't buy clothes when they come here. They do buy food. They may buy medicine, but those aren't going to be taxed. So the people who live here with young children are going to end up paying a lot of that sales tax, and they are the people who can least afford to pay higher taxes. I'll talk about property taxes. I can tell you my property has gone up 11.2% since January. So in 9 months, my property tax or my property value has gone up 11.2%. I fully expect my property taxes will go up something similar to that. Is there a reason? And the reason is because people no longer have to live in the cities to work. They can work from home. A lot of people are migrating to these type communities to work and to bring their income and to bring their money to spend in our county. Why are we jumping the gun on not waiting to see what your extra revenue is going to be from the property taxes for this year, instead of jumping the gun and saying, let's hurry up and raise 1% more on your sales tax? So I'll stop there and let you answer some of those questions.
So you're right about, what the taxes, it's not going to be on food. It's not going to be on medicine. It's not going to be on automobiles. It's not going to be on farm equipment. Okay. But it is going to be on clothes, and, restaurants and that kind of thing, prepared food. So there's sort of no way to get around that. That's basically the General Assembly decided that. We did not. Okay. That's all been done. And anything that's not taxed today will not be taxed in the future. But bottom line is, okay, we have to spend the money on the school. It's not an option. I mean, we're required by the state to provide public schools. The public school needs help. Okay, we have to spend money. There's just no way to get around it. We've spent the last 2 years, the Board of Supervisors and the school board, trying to figure out what we could do for the most reasonable price. And trust me, this is it. I mean, it's, it started, it could be a lot more if we let it go there, but we didn't. So we've been fighting it like crazy. So I get it. Okay. I mean, I'm not a tax person either. The last thing I want to do is raise taxes, but when you've got to come up with tax money, okay, to pay a bill, okay, and we've got a big bill we've got to pay here. We don't have any option on it. It has to get paid. Okay. In my opinion, it's much better actually, just to spend it, okay, spend money that 45% comes from outsiders, visitors, then spend it where all of the money comes from people in Northampton County. So I get it. I mean, listen, I'm not somebody that frivolously, wants to raise taxes. I don't want to raise taxes, frankly. And I'm going to push real hard to make sure if we do this, if we pass this referendum, we don't raise property taxes. And I understand the poorer families, they don't go outside of the county to buy their clothes. That, there's lots of places online they can buy them, and hopefully they buy them online, because frankly, clothes online are pretty cheap right now. So, I mean, that's all I can say. I can say that the bottom line is we have to spend money, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to raise the money, okay, that's the best for this county.
Okay, but the property taxes, like I say, you're probably looking at a lot more revenue coming in for property taxes because the value of people's property is going up significantly. And that means even people who don't own the property, they rent, their landlords are going to have to pay the higher taxes. They're going to raise the rents of those people who can least afford to pay it.
Listen, I hear you, and we have a sort of an escalation and new houses and all that. I mean, basically it's been over the last 3 years, because I've been a supervisor and paying attention to it the last 3 years. We have an uptick of about $250,000 to $300,000 a year because of appreciation. The price of houses go up a little bit. We build a bunch of new homes, okay, et cetera. And that's going to always be the case. I mean, Cape Charles, again, is an aberration. Okay, the prices there have really gone up, and I've had a lot of complaints about that. And so, I don't know what equalization can happen there, because it's not really happening in the rest of the county like it's happening in Cape Charles. And I don't know what to do about that. I've been talking to a bunch of people about that, and it's the way you do equalization. It's across the whole county, and the last couple of years we haven't had to make an adjustment. So again, I guess it's a good thing Cape Charles is busy. It's a good thing the price of real estate is going up instead of down. And yes, it's a bad thing when you're talking about the tax you have to pay on those houses.
John, I have a question. How quickly is the escalation in the market value of houses reflected in the county's evaluation? And secondly, you use the word equalization. Would you explain what that means?
Sure. It's supposed to be every year, Paul. I think they're supposed to revalue the houses every year, and they will revalue it sooner if it gets sold. But it's supposed to be every year now. But there are reasons why it might not be, and I'm not going to go into the details of that, but there's things that could happen that they might not do it every year, but every other year. But I think it's every year now. Equalization is just basically what they want to do is make sure that if all the prices go up, okay, that the county just doesn't take all that extra money, okay, and spend it, because so what they do is that if the real estate value goes up a lot, okay, we the county are required to reduce the tax rate, okay, to make it come up to about the same level that it was before the value went up, okay, and vice versa. And this happened back in 2009 or 10, or actually was later than that, because they didn't do it for a lot of years back in they were having problems with the system and didn't do it for, I think, 4 or 5 years. Anyway, if the property values go down, then they increase the tax rate to make it the revenue base basically the same. So that's what equalization is all about.
I saw that too, but I look back 10 years ago, the rate was 49 cents on a $100 value. And then we had the drop out, and a lot of house values went down. So it did not equalize. It did not get cut from 49 cents. In fact, now it's 83 cents on $100.
Well, so what happened was it was 49 cents. And then when the market dropped, okay, they had to raise the rate to equalize the revenue that the county was given. So I don't remember exactly, but I went from, way down there to up in the, I think maybe that's how they got to the 80s. I'm not sure, but it was a significant drop back in the, 2009,
Right.
plus
Right. Okay.
John, I have
Yes.
one question about a general real estate tax increase. Don't we then lose some control from an administrative standpoint about where that money is spent? In other words, the referendum, it's specific for the school.
Yes.
It's not going anywhere else. There doesn't seem to be the same controls on a general tax increase.
Well, that's a really good point. But if you do the math, okay, it's right now well, pre-COVID actually right now it probably would be a little less than $1.4 million. Okay, if you do the math, that if say it's 1.4, which is the pre-COVID 2019 estimate, at 20 years that's $28 million. Okay, that's not enough to pay. That's literally not enough to pay the $35 million construction bill that we're going to have. So this isn't going to generate all the money. So we're going to have other money. So this money is all going to go there. We need it to go there because we need to pay back the $35 million plus all the interest that be charged.
My point is, I think that's one of the big arguments in favor of the referendum, as opposed to a real estate tax increase.
Exactly.
The controllability of the funds.
Absolutely. It has to go there. We need it. Okay. And frankly, it's not enough. And if we didn't have some debt rolling off because of the school debt and the county complex debt, okay, would be asking for more, okay? Would be looking at maybe that and a property tax increase. But I'm pretty comfortable that we're not going to need to raise property taxes because we have debt rolling off and we can take those payments and pay them on the new debt that we're getting for the schools.
John, Stan Plowden, what did you say was going to be taxed?
It's well, basically what's not going to be taxed, okay, are groceries, medicine, automobiles, and farm equipment. Okay, sort of basically the big items that everybody spends. I mean, Chuck was right. I mean, clothes are taxed, and again, that's not something that we had a lot to do with. That was part of the General Assembly ruling when they put this. They put it together. Now I think there's about we got us and 6 other counties this year. We're on the list. Up until this year, only one county, Halifax County, was the only one that's ever done this before. So this is pretty new, and I think they're learning. The General Assembly is learning as we go along here. And I agree. I think clothes would be one that probably should not be taxed, but right now that's not the case.
Okay, thank you.
But restaurants, property rentals, that sort of stuff, that will be taxed. The extra 1 cent. So tot tax is going to go up by 1 cent, and restaurant, tax is going to go up by 1 cent. That sort of stuff.
I am a little concerned about the restaurants. They're in big trouble right now.
Yeah.
Amen, man. We all agree with that.
To throw another 1 cent sales tax and possibly cut back on their clientele and their customers even more is going to hurt them even more, which may make more people become unemployed.
So, and I think, listen, it's, that's the same, when we add this 1 cent sales tax, it'll be the same as Virginia Beach. And they seem to be able to sustain it. And I think ours will too. Might be a little tougher in the off season, but at the end of the day, most people aren't going to, not go out to dinner because it's going to cost them another, 10 cents.
Yeah, I raised
even $1.
I raise these points not because I'm totally against taxes. I raise it because I think it could backfire and cause more unemployment, more problems with people coming here and people who live here trying to meet their costs, especially the younger people with kids and so forth. Whether it creates more problems with them, even if they're not paying the tax themselves, they're getting the backfire from the economy going back down even more and losing jobs and so forth.
Yeah, it's a really good point, but I would suggest that the real estate tax is probably the one that they look at. If somebody's going to look at carefully before they come here, much more than the sales tax.
Yeah.
Who else?
Chandler.
Hey,
John?
John, can you all hear me okay?
Yeah, sure can.
Is it okay if I ask a question about broadband connectivity?
Are you going to be around for a while? Because I'm going to talk about that later.
Well, yeah, I guess I can wait. All right.
Okay.
Somebody else has something else.
Okay, so why don't we just do this? It's 1 o'clock. What I'd like to do is the 4-way test. And then those who would like to stay on, I know, Mark, you have to get back to sick people, that sort of thing. Then we'll continue with John. Will that work?
Sure.
Sure.
Works great.
All right. Just a second, guys.
Thank you, John. I've got to run too in a minute.
Yeah, I'm going to have to as well. Thank you, John.
So before
Okay.
you all leave, one more thing. Before you all leave, let me just tell you that one of the big things I've worked on over the last couple of years is getting a stoplight in front of Food Line. That's been approved. Okay, the contract has been let. They're going to start construction next month, and it's going to be done by the end of May next year.
All right.
That's
Thank
great
you.
news. Okay, with respect to what we think, say, and do. 1, is it the truth? 2, is it fair to all concerned? Will it build better?
Will and better friendship.
4, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And Stanley?
Will we have fun?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, the Rotary meeting is over. And this is John Coker's meeting. This is on your dime, John. We're going to bill you for this. Let me
Feel
stop
free,
my
Bill.
sharing here. And John, if you want to share anything from your computer, you're allowed. I'm turning you on.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't need to share anything.
Okay, fine.
Let me just- So again, hopefully everybody heard that the food line lights, the construction should start next month, and it's going to be done by end of May 2021, which is good news. Okay,
I saw some guys out there surveying, John.
Yep, it's happening. It's all funded. It's happening. It's great. So basically, this is just that's the first of a bunch of updates. A lot of you have heard me talk before, and I've got a bunch of things that I want to talk about. The first is the Cape Charles anchorage. I mean, you've all heard about the boats out there and what are they doing? Basically, they're supposed to be 3 miles out and supposed to be at Cape Charles level or north. Okay, well, if you look out there, there are a lot of them that are south of Cape Charles. And basically, so what's happening is the Coast Guard is basically got it all approved. They designed it and everything else. But guess what? They're not enforcing the anchorage sites. So it's the craziest thing you could ever imagine in your whole life. After all that work they went through, they're not enforcing it. And we asked them at our last Navigable Waterways Committee meeting, which I'm a member of that committee, and they didn't know the answer. They didn't know why they weren't enforcing it. So we've got them going back to try to figure that out, which is kind of crazy. And we never did get a no discharge zone. Okay, that's one of those things where, frankly, I think this state talks the talk but doesn't walk the walk. Okay, the state had to basically push hard to get go to the EPA and say we don't want a no discharge zone because that the waste, even if it's treated waste, is toxic to shellfish and to bathers. But we never got anywhere there. So end of story. What happened actually, the last one, the one that stopped it supposedly was the recreational boating lobby, if you can believe that. Okay, so not even the Maritime Association, because that they even gave in. So anyway, bottom line is that there is an anchorage out there, but it's not being adhered to. Next is a railroad status. Okay, we're in a no traffic zone. We're cleaning up Cape Charles downtown. It's almost done. We've got a couple of little brown issues, but nothing major. So we're going to be bringing some dump loads of stuff in and taking some dump loads of bad stuff out. But that's all well and good. We're still looking to sell the Cape Charles rail yard, but that turns out that transaction is very complicated. I can't talk about it because it's private and it's not for public consumption, but I'll tell you, it's a very, very complicated transaction. One of the most complicated real estate transactions I've ever seen. But we're still working on it. And last but not least, and a lot of you have heard this whole rails to trails thing. Well, and just let me explain one more time. I think I've explained this before. The reason we have to go to rails to trails is to keep the right of way and to keep the easements we have on the railroad. Okay, if we don't do that, then basically what happens is we lose all of our easements and we lose a lot of our right of ways. Okay, but if we go to rails to trails, okay, we basically get to keep those. Okay, that means, and so we can use them for infrastructure like sewer, like broadband. Okay, water, if we ever need to run water up and down the railroad. I mean, we've got this beautiful conduit from all the way at the bottom of the peninsula to the top of the peninsula to put infrastructure in if we need it. And if we lose that, it could be very expensive to go back and try to find that real estate to do it. So that's why we need to do rails to trails. Okay, it's not about building this big bicycle trail. Okay, because I'm not sure that we'll ever have the money to do that. Although we're working on it. We're working with the Department of Recreation Conservation, and we've got a rails to trails firm that Dahlgren that really has worked with them a lot, and we're hoping we might get some good trails here. Okay, and they're not bike trails; they're healthy living trails, walking trails. Basically, you can ride bikes on them, but walking and town to town trails, that sort of thing. So at the end of the day, I think we have to do that, and the reason we have to do that is we have to keep those easements and those right of ways for infrastructure for the future. So groundwater, we always talk. I mean, I'm on the groundwater committee, both counties, Accomack, Northampton. I always talk about this because it's really important issue because we have a confined aquifer. And the only way that aquifer replenishes itself is through rainfall. So we absolutely don't want to over withdraw from our aquifer. So I actually testified last December in front of the State Water Control Board. And basically the reason I testified is we're trying to get the poultry farms up in Accomack to basically start using the Columbia aquifer, which is the superficial aquifer. And that's the first 90 feet, okay? The first 90 feet. And once you get below 90 feet, you get into the Yorktown. And just to refresh your memory, the Columbia replenishes itself 100 times faster than the Yorktown does. So basically, if you're in the Columbia, okay, chances are it's going to get replenished pretty quickly. So the bottom line is that we actually got the State Water Control Board to require that all new poultry permits, okay, from now on, whether they're a new permit or a renewal of a permit, okay, you're going to have to go back and prove that they cannot get the water they need out of the Columbia before they're allowed to use the Yorktown. That's a major breakthrough, actually. It's really awesome. And I think in the future, okay, we're going to have a lot more people pulling out of the Columbia, water out of the Columbia, and instead of the Yorktown. So we won't over withdraw our major our confined aquifers. And by the way, just so for those of you that like really important facts, okay, the age of the water, okay, most of us are drinking actually, because I think all of us drink out of the Yorktown. The age of the water in the upper Yorktown is about 1,000 years old. Okay, that means that rain came down and hit the ground about 1,000 years ago. The rain in the lower Yorktown, okay, there's 3 levels, the upper, middle, and Yorktown. The lower Yorktown is 10,000 years old. So those of you who have really deep wells, chances are the water you're drinking is 10,000 years plus. Just who would ever think, right?
I wish my gym was that old.
I'm not sure they made it back then. Okay, let's move on. I got just a couple more and I'll be done. Tourism Commission's doing great. Actually, we seem to be bringing lots of people to the Eastern Shore. And that's one of the reasons that this referendum is going to help us pay for some of our school debt, okay, with money from outside, which is great. And even in this COVID situation, we seem to have a lot more people here than anybody ever expected. Robbie Marsh is doing a great job. He's basically the head of the Tourism Commission and the head of the Eastern Shore Chamber. And he seems to be doing both jobs really well. And if you haven't met her, his right-hand person is Christy Betts. She runs the Welcome Center and she's doing an awesome job and she tries to get out, talk to everybody. She's really an outstanding hire. So he's done a great job and that's all going well. And if Kabler's still here, broadband. So the story on the broadband is, this is a tough story, okay? It's basically, they borrowed $5 million about a year ago, actually, and they're trying to roll out broadband to 70% of the homes on the Eastern Shore with that $5 million. And I think they're gonna do that, and they're probably gonna do that by the end of next year. So that's the good news, okay? The bad news is that extra last 30%, which is amazing, is going to cost another $30 million to roll it out. So, you know, it's just that it's just so far out and so far away from people, you know, out of these necks and these hard to get to places that it's really going to be difficult to find the money to get that last 30%, but they're working on it. And in fact, what they're trying to do is reduce their prices. They bought a horizontal boring machine because they were paying outrageous prices to rent one to and hire somebody to go underneath roads and all that. Well, now they can do their own. But that's the good news. One of the bad news things is I've heard recently, just yesterday, is the price of fiber has gone up 40% in the last 6 months. So people talk about inflation, okay? The rate inflation, price inflation because of this COVID, okay, has caused things to be very scarce. And we all experienced that early on. Well, some of it's not gone yet. In fact, some of it is getting worse because people are trying to get out of the cities. They want to go into rural places to live. And guess what? They're doing everything they can to get fiber every place they can. So I think their broadband is doing well. They're pushing as hard as they can. It's still a small operation. They're not doing it as quickly as we would like them to, but we are pushing real hard. Okay, trying them to get them to borrow more money, so they can get that 70% to 80 or 90%. Chances will never get to 100%. And they're also looking at a private-public partnership, which I don't know anything about. It's very confidential, and with one of the providers, local providers, and we'll see if something happens there. That might help. That might help get some outside money, because there are a lot of grants for private-public partnerships. So if we could get some grant money, that would, again, we could make that get that 70% to 80% or whatever. So is Cavler still there? Dave?
Yeah, John, hey. So can I ask you about, thanks for answering the broadband question. I appreciate that. You mentioned the railroad property. Is that a public offering yet, or is the county working on a private sale?
So the answer is, it's the counties, okay, because it's really the ANTDC that owns it, okay? So the counties own it, and it probably will be a private sale, okay? So we'll sell it to the best bidder, the most appropriate bidder. But we're not sure yet. It's really not listed, and we have a lot of interest. It probably won't be. I'm guessing it won't be listed. Even if we do list it till next year sometime, because we've got some whole bunch of legal issues we have to get through before we can get there. So it's going to be, it'll be a private sale, but we're not, the county's not going to buy it. The town of Cape Charles isn't going to buy it. So we're hoping somebody will buy it.
Now, what I'm asking is it a public offering yet? In other words, is it available out there in the marketplace, or are you still just doing your homework right now to be able to offer it for sale?
So I got it. Okay, we're still doing our homework to be able to offer it for sale. Okay. In fact, we're cleaning up a lot of the details around it. Okay, there's some legal details, there's some brownfield details, and we're working on all of that stuff. Okay, and we expect that hopefully to be done by the end of this year. And and I got to tell you, that's pretty aggressive, because it's a mess.
Thank you.
I have a quick question for you on the railroad property.
Yep.
Are there any projections as to what follow-on usage those areas could serve?
So are you talking about the Cape Charles Rail Yard, or are you talking about the
rail yard? The
rail yard. So the answer is no. Okay. How do I deal with it? This is a really complicated question. But here's the bottom line. Okay. The minute we sell that rail yard to somebody, they are under Cape Charles zoning. So whatever Cape Charles, the town of Cape Charles, says they can do on that property, okay, is what could happen there. So and right now, and I think it's mixed use zoning. I think it's I can't remember and it's small. It's not, they don't have to be big pieces of land, but I think it's all mixed use, and so residential, commercial, all that, and for that whole 40 acres. But it's all, the minute, this is really important, the minute we sell it, the minute we sign it over, it becomes Cape Charles's problem, or Cape Charles's challenge, okay, to get whatever they want there in there. And we have no control of it anymore. So we're going to sell it to somebody, and they're going to do what they want to do with it, but it's got to fit into Cape Charles's zoning ordinances, okay, or it it won't happen.
So you have to sell it, as opposed to considering some type of a long-term extended lease program to create revenue, where the flexibility of the zoning will still be there now as it is now.
That's a real good question, and a kind of a sneaky idea. And to be honest, we've talked about that because there's some legal issues that may require us to do that. Okay, but I think that whatever we do, in my opinion, okay, and I'm just one board member, but I think most of the board agree to this. Whatever we do, we want Cape Charles to agree with. we don't want to do something that Cape Charles is not going to support. That just doesn't make sense, because it's in my opinion, it is the crown jewel of the county. And, why in the world would we want to do something that would ruin that and be inconsistent with what the town wanted? So I think at the end of the day, we feel like it'd be easier to sell it and then let whoever the developer that bought it work with Cape Charles to come up with something really, really wonderful.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot.
You're very welcome. Again, move on. Just a couple more. A lot of you heard about the bike trail that was going to go from Food Line to Cape Charles. And all I can say here, guys, is that we blew this one, okay? And let me just tell you what happened here is that basically this was going to be funded with VDOT money. It was basically the money that came from open container fines. And the reason they do that is they used to have a fund that, all the open container money from the fines would be used to make pedestrians and bicyclists safer, okay? And so basically we applied for that. They had a grant program. It was a really good grant program. We applied for it, and VDOT actually talked us, and I say it wasn't us, it was ANPDC, the Planning District Commission, talked them out of applying last year, okay? It had to be, the application had to be in by September 30 last year, and they talked them out of it, okay? Because they said, gee whiz, that, that they were going to go into Cape Charles and across the railroad land. And they said it could be a brownfield. It could be some issues there. Why don't we figure all that out and then you apply for it next year? Well, so the ANPDC just decided not to apply last year. Okay. And it turns out that nobody applied last year for that grant money. Nobody, they had no applications. And guess what? At the end of last year, VDOT stopped that grant program. So it's done, it's over. So we missed our window. We would have absolutely got it if we applied last year, but it's gone. So, and it's one of those, we just blew it. We should have gone ahead and applied for it and basically ended the trail at Rayfields. But, ANPDC wanted to go all the way to the waterfront. And by doing that, we killed it. I mean, there was $5 million grant that we just lost. Sorry about that. Next is, I've only got two more. Next is HRSD. I don't know if any of you have heard about this new sewer at Hampton Roads Sanitation District that's coming to the Eastern Shore. It's almost certain it's going to come to Accomack, and pretty certain it's going to come to Northampton County. But let me tell you what that means. Basically, what it means is that we're going to be part of their district, but okay, we're not committed to do anything. Okay, we're not committed to use them. We're not committed to buy anything from them. But if we want them to help us out, for example, if they were to take over the sewage system in Nassawatex, okay, they would do that. Okay, so they would take over that system, and they're actually willing to run a pipe all the way from Nancock, which is where the principal sewage treatment plant is going to be, all the way down to Nassawatex to take over the Nassawatex sewer plant. Which is $25 million. It's a lot of money, but we wouldn't have to pay for it. They would spread it across their hundreds of thousands of customers. So bottom line is, okay, we don't have to do anything, but it could be really helpful in the future. Okay, and if we wanted them to help us, they could take over one of our sewer plants, and once they take it over, they own it, and if they need to upgrade it, they spread that cost over their hundreds of thousands of customers. Big problems with HRSD is basically they charge the same rate for sewage across all their hundreds of thousands of customers. And oh, by the way, their rate the last few years has been going up at a 9% annual rate, which is outrageous. Okay, I mean, you can't sustain that. Nobody can. They say they're trying to bring it down, but they haven't yet. And there's a big reason for that. They're doing this huge water system infusion problem because they've got an aquifer over there that they've overpumped. They're literally 200 feet overpumped. They're trying to bring the pressure back for that aquifer because ground is actually sinking. So they've got some big problems.
John, where's that again? I missed it.
What? Hampton Roads, it's the Hampton Roads area, a little bit west and a little bit north. Okay, they've got huge aquifer that they've overpumped. They've been overpumping it for decades. And now they're trying to put some pressure back in to keep the ground from sinking.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But anyway, the benefits would be, okay, you know, if they do take over a system, okay, Nassauatics, for example, then there are no more big checks to have to pay, no more big bills to have to pay, because they basically keep the system up to date, keep it working well, you know, make sure it's up to speed with DEQ, and at the end of the day, okay, if they need a $1 million bill, they get $1 million bill for the whatever new thing they need, new filtration system, new pumps, you know, new filters, whatever. They just pay it and spread it across all their customers. So that would be the nice thing. No more $1 million bills we have to pay. And those that are familiar with sewer systems, the bills are usually in the millions of dollars. They're just very, very expensive. So
at the opposite end of that, though.
I'm sorry.
What's at the opposite end of that, though? What's the con? That was the pro. What's the con?
So the cons are the rates are actually pretty low right now, okay? But the con is they've been escalating at 9% a year.
Mm.
So, you know, I got to tell you, I mean, it doesn't take too long at 9% to take a low rate and make it high. Mm. And I think that's one of the big issues that Exmoor is having, because they want to come in and take over Exmoor's system, which they would do. But Exmoor says, you know, at 9% a year, you know, we just can't justify it because it costs too much. So that's the big one. You're sort of, once you do it, you lose control, okay? And the rates can escalate, you know, too fast. And 9%, in my opinion, 9% is just too much. So, I mean, I would probably at this point vote against it at that kind of escalation rate. They would have to do something to get that under control and guarantee a lower rate of escalation, lower rate of inflation on their price. So that's the big con.
Ask.
Okay, I have a question.
Go ahead, Jackie.
Isn't there some concern about the initial cost for connecting to the Hampton Road sanitation system?
There is no cost. Well, there's a huge cost. It's $25 million, but they're going to pay for it, and they're going to spread it across their hundreds of thousands of users.
Oh, okay. Initially, there was a concern, right, for those people who were not connected to the existing systems.
Well, there's again, it all depends on what you're doing and where you are. Okay, if for example, Nassauatics and Exmoor, they were willing to run the pipe down and connect them up. And that's not, basically they were going to pay for the pipe and everything. So it was a great deal. Okay, except that, you know, basically at the end of the day, when you're talking about huge price escalation, and they are not committed to say they'll control that. They say they're trying, but you know, their history in the last few years has been outrageous. So it's hard to buy into somebody that's going up at 9% a year.
All right, thank you, John.
Dave, you have another question?
I just want to make an observation. The flip side of that, obviously, is that the end users in Exmoor and Nassauatics, for example, the residents who are hooked up to it, are subject to rate increases of the millions of customers down in Hampton Roads.
Right.
If they have a major, you know, snafu down there that they've got to do some, you know, $50 billion type of improvement, then that rate comes down to these little mosquitoes up here in Exmoor and Nassauatics.
Yeah.
So my question is who makes the decision on this, John? Is this a Board of Supervisors decision, or is this each community, or like the town councils, or?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, Dave, and I should have covered it. This is all about the towns, okay? The county has a sewer complex, just for the county complex, okay? It's a private sewer system, which that's the only thing the sewer system the county has anything to do with. Nassauatics is the town, Cape Charles is the town, Exmoor is the town. And I think those are the only three. So basically it's up to the town and the town councils. You know, they have to decide whether they want to be part of it, whether they want to, you know, hook up with HRSD or hook up with somebody else. In fact, Cape Charles is talking to Aqua as we speak about taking over their sewer system. So it's all about the towns. It's all about who owns the system. And other than the county complex in Eastville, the county doesn't have anything to do with this. They're just making it available if in fact the towns want to do it.
I wouldn't do it.
not our decision. We're just adding another solution if in fact they need one.
Right. So one town could agree and another town would not necessarily have to, is what you're saying.
That's correct. And because they all have they all have separate sewage systems, so they could easily disagree. In fact, Exmoor is, and again, I'm not sure where they are right at this minute, but they're pretty sure that they're not going to go with HRSD, that they're going to go with their own system. And Nassauatix is thinking that they may go with HRSD, which means they're going to spend $25 million to run a pipe all the way from Unancock down to Nassauatix and not stop at Exmoor. But they're willing to do that.
No, that's too risky for the people over here.
It's very complicated.
So me living out in the countryside with a septic tank and well, I don't have to hook in, and it's not going to affect a resident who is not in on the system, is what you're saying.
That's absolutely correct.
Thank you.
It won't, and you'll never pay a dime for it, okay? Because it won't be, you know, it's basically the only money that's paid to this is basically on sewer and or water fees, and they're not offering water over here anyway, so it'd be sewer fees. If you're not hooked up to their sewer, you'll never pay a dime for it. True for everybody else that is not hooked up to their sewer.
Hey,
Anything
John,
else?
can I ask you a question about these cottage communities like Silver Beach and Smith's Beach and, for instance, Vaucluse Shores? I mean, you've got some of these older subdivisions that sooner or later are going to have central water and sewer, because when they get so developed, it's not going to be safe to drink the water out of the ground, you know, from shallow wells. You know, somebody on a well in Silver Beach or Smith's Beach is not tapping into the Yorktown aquifer. They're going into the Columbia aquifer. And they're also disposing of their wastewater into the same system. And so as these communities grow and fill in, is there are there any plans to, you know, run a sewer line, for instance, out to Vaucluse, or to, is anybody talking about this issue? I have to say it's going to be a ticking time bomb right now. There are already some water issues out in Vaucluse that I'm aware of, but if I were living in Silver Beach right now and I have a little 1/8 acre lot and my neighbors are all around me and they've got wells and septic tanks, boy, I'd be really concerned about the water I'm drinking.
So a couple things. First is I'll bet you that most of those people you're talking about actually are drinking from the Yorktown and not drinking from the Columbia, although some are probably drinking from the Columbia because the well's cheaper. But the current well drillers really only drill water drinking wells into the Yorktown. They don't want to drill into the Columbia. So I think that you're not drinking the water because the water you're drinking is 1,000 years old.
No, I'm sorry, John. I'm telling you, the Vaucluse wells are averaging 15 feet deep. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that, and I have a really hard time believing that, Dave. But you could be right.
I deal in these properties, and I have to certify on each sale. And I've had a lot of extensive talks with Bundick, for instance, to find out about this problem. But I would say that a residential well is not going down 1,000 feet into the ground.
No, 100 feet, 120 feet. That's typically what in our county, the average well is 120 feet.
And the Yorktown aquifer is down like 900, isn't it?
No. Yorktown aquifer, the Columbia is 0 through 90 feet. Okay, if you get over 100 feet, you're in the Yorktown. Okay, and I'm telling you right now, I've talked to Bundick, I've talked to, basically all the well drillers around here, all the way up to Maryland. Okay, they're all drilling their wells over 100 feet. They don't want to go into the Columbia because what they'll tell you is the quality and the quantity of the water isn't good in the Columbia. Well, that's not true. Okay, it's certainly not always true. Okay, but they'll tell you that. Okay, so they always drill their wells more than 100 feet to get into the Yorktown, so they don't have to deal with it.
Okay, but let me just say, out on the coastline, you see where the beaches are, and these communities I'm talking about are right on the coast. They're not in the higher elevations of the county in the middle of the peninsula. And that's where these small, shallow wells are. I would say it would be good to look into it because I think there's going to be a problem to face in the years ahead, but I don't want to waste everybody's time on this issue. I just thought I'd mention it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't let it in there because basically the way our aquifer is like a huge bubble underneath the land, okay? And frankly, it goes out in a lot of places hundreds of feet into the bay. Okay, so if you go out in the bay, okay, 100 feet, and you drill down about 200 feet, you're probably going to be in the Yorktown aquifer. Okay, you're probably going to get fresh water out there. Okay, so and the goal is to keep the pressure on that bubble so that it doesn't start shrinking in. Okay, and there are places where that's happened. Okay, and we're trying to do everything we can to keep the pressure in that aquifer so it doesn't happen. So I mean, it's not critical. Okay, our aquifers in this county, by the way, are actually their level is increasing, not decreasing, which is amazing. Okay, because we've been really lucky in the last 20 years. Okay, we haven't had any really bad droughts that have caused them to overpumping and decreasing in the level of our aquifers. We're really are in good shape here. Accomack, you can't say the same. They've had a lot of especially localized issues in Accomack. And we have had a localized issue in Cape Charles, but everybody knows about it. So they moved the wells further to the east. So we're in really good shape here. Okay, but I hear you, and I think anybody that's got a well, okay, anybody that's got a well that's 15 feet should be very worried about it. Okay, but I'm guessing that most wells, in fact, the average well in Northampton County is 120 feet. That's what the well drillers have told us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. I mean, it's a really important topic for all of us because we run out of water, guys, and we're in trouble.
John, one quick question. Would you give me the website again for the school, yes, for the tax effort for schools?
It's yesfornorthamptonschools.com.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you left the Northampton piece out earlier.
I probably did, sorry.
But Bill, are you okay? Say that one more time, John.
Yesfornorthamptonschools.com. Bring it all together. And there's also a Facebook page, so you can look up Yes for Northampton Schools, and you'll find it. You'll find it on Facebook too.
I see Reggie and Stanley are writing checks as we speak.
I wrote mine.
Well, this is your show,
Also, John,
you're just on our system.
So I'm pretty much done. I've got just remind everybody that if you care about our schools, please vote yes for Northampton Schools. And the important thing is tell everybody to do it too. Just don't do it yourself. Tell everybody it's the right thing to do for our county because yes, it's a tax increase, and let me tell you, there's nobody that dislikes tax increases more than I do. But if you can get 45% of the money paid for by outsiders or visitors or tourists or whatever you want to call them, they're all of the above. Okay, I think that's a great thing. So I think it's the right thing to do, and I would hopefully everybody goes away and starts doing the same thing. What else? Anybody? Any other questions? Anything else? Anybody wants to talk about?
Hey, John, thanks for joining. Bill, did you have something?
No, I just want to tell John, thanks for all the hard work he does, and especially from my point of view for that stoplight up there at Food Line. I know that was a real struggle for a long time, and I'm very, very glad to hear that it's coming along. And also, thanks again for the job you guys are trying to do with this tax increase for schools. I'm absolutely committed to the notion that that's the very best way to do it. So thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Bill, I have one.
The Cape Charles stoplight, I can't take credit. Granville Hog's been working on that for 10 years. So I jumped in and finished it, but I can't take credit for that.
Take credit, John. Take credit.
There's another question.
David's got one.
The public meetings for the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors, are we able to attend those with a Zoom video, or is there any way for a citizen to have a virtual participation in meetings without going to the meetings physically?
So the answer is I don't think so, Dave. I think you have to go physically, and there's typically not a lot of people there, so you can social distance pretty well. And wear a mask and you can stay away from people. And that's what I've been doing. So but I don't think there's any other way to do it. Sorry.
John, I have one last question for you.
Sure.
At one of our recent Cape Charles Main Street meetings, the topic of labor for serving the restaurants and other businesses in the Cape Charles area was low. And one of the reasons appeared to be because of workhouse housing, or people being able to afford to live in the area rather than driving long distances to get here. Are there any plans or anything that you're aware of that's in place to take a look at that issue?
So the answer is we've been working on that I've been working on it for a couple of years. Paul Grossman is working diligently on it, along with Charlie Kolakowski. And I'm not sure we're making a lot of progress, but I think we're making some progress. We got to figure out where that housing goes, because there's not a lot of, not only is there's not a lot of housing, there's not a lot of space to put that housing. So we got to figure out how do we put it maybe outside the town, because there's not a lot of inside the town. And frankly, real estate inside the town is really expensive now. So the answer is we're working on it. It's at a snail's pace, and I really am sorry for that. But it's something it's really near the top of everybody's list. And I think we're making progress, but it's just incredibly slow.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And it's a really good question, actually. It's a huge issue. And the fact that Cape Charles is getting more expensive is making it a much more acute issue.
Yeah. John, on behalf of our club, we thank you for your service. The door is always open, and one day we're going to sign you up.
keep trying, Bill.
I'm relentless.
Thank you all so much. I really enjoy. This is one of my favorite things to do. I enjoy every one of these. Thanks so much.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome. Take care.
Bye-bye.
We'll sign off here.
Bye-bye.